Half a day, I'm Jolene Tovis, and this is Coffee with the Candidates. Joining me today is Michelle Armenta, who is running under the Republican ticket for senator. Welcome, Michelle. How are you today?
Hi.
All right, now you are running for senator. Can you tell us what made you decide to do so?
Well, that's an interesting story because I actually never considered running for senator or anything in politics. And somebody had brought it up to me just as an idea. And originally I said no because I'm a very private person. I don't like talking about myself. I don't like letting everybody else know about me. And when you get into politics, everybody wants to know about you. And they said, well, basically, here's a week. Time is short. You need to think about it. We're not going to pressure you. Just think about it. So I thought about it. And instead of taking 1 week, it ended up taking 2 weeks. But it just got to the point where I was thinking, if not me, then who? So because I just didn't feel like there was enough people in the Senate or enough people running that actually represented me and my beliefs.
All right. Now, you have been a strong key component in advocating for accountability. You were part of the Vigilance Committee. Can you share with us how your role in that committee really opened your eyes to the things that you want to see changed in the government?
That's exactly it. So the committee started last summer, and some people had approached me about their idea about establishing the committee. And once again, there was some hesitance because I'm such a private person, and I would be the person that would be out there speaking on behalf of the committee. And I just, after the reason why I went ahead and I joined is because I did see that there was a need for transparency in the government. There was a lot of talk about transparency during the election season. And then when that was over, all I kept hearing about was closed door meetings here. And, this is going on behind closed doors and everything. I was like, well, where's the transparency? So I went ahead and I thought, well, this is important enough to where, I'm willing to put myself out there, at least a very little bit, and just address situations that need to be addressed.
All right. Now, what is your stance on how we could actually achieve or move forward towards more transparency and accountability? What needs to be done? What would you do?
The problem that I'm seeing is there's no checks and balance going on. And that is what the government that we have was established on. So it just, okay, so my background has a lot to do with administration. So I worked for the Department of Defense. Well, first I started off as a recruiter for the Army National Guard. And then I ended up moving, I got out of the Guard and I worked for the Department of Defense, and I worked at the Army ROTC. And I was the administrative technician. And it was my job to make sure that everything was in order, everything was in line. I took care of basically all paperwork, not just for the cadets, but also for the cadre. I had to verify their pay every month. If there was anything that was out of whack, it was my job to do the investigation to make sure that everything was okay. If everything wasn't okay, what happened, make sure that doesn't happen again and fix it. And that's not what's going on in the government from what I see, because apparently we have to wait for audits to happen in order to see what is going on. And then we have to go back who knows how far to see what happened and if it needs to get fixed, if we're going to fix it. And that shouldn't, there's no accountability and there's no transparency in that aspect either, especially when we're dealing with a budget. Now, even for the upcoming year, we don't know where the money is coming from, or where they're projecting that amount based on what they're anticipating on getting, which I don't even understand how they're anticipating that, considering the fact that our economy is getting worse with every shutdown, because apparently what we had a few months ago isn't enough. We have to shut down again. So
All
we
right.
just, all of that needs to be addressed.
All right. Now, how would you handle the economic crisis, which which has been a result from the pandemic? You mentioned the shutdown. What needs to be done to ensure that we're in our second shutdown? So, what needs to be done to ensure that there isn't a third shutdown?
Well, from what I understand, or at least from what I'm perceiving from the administration, is that we're basing everything on a vaccination that may or may not come and may or may not be successful. Best case scenario, this vaccination will be here, or actually, I'm sorry, won't even be here, will be available at the beginning of the year and won't be distributed in mass quantities until the middle of next year. And even then, that's going to be prioritized to the elderly and to the frontline workers. So that still won't be available, at best to the rest of the world, the rest of us, maybe till the end of next year. So to live off of some hope that some vaccine that even Dr. Fauci says that is only at best 70 to 75% effective, I think it's unrealistic, and I think that we need to basically learn to live with what we have now, because there are other consequences to the shutdown besides businesses closing. It just, you have people that are struggling with if they can't feed their kids, if they're losing their homes, now we have to start thinking about drug abuse. We have to start thinking about alcohol abuse. We have to start thinking about suicides. We have to start thinking about domestic violence. And people are going to die in other ways. And apparently, according to the numbers, we have, a 99% chance of surviving this virus. I hate to call it a flu to diminish it, because it is serious, but we can't have all of these other things happening because we're afraid of something that might happen.
All right. Now, you have background in real estate, correct?
Yes, I was in real estate. Yes.
Yes. So my next question, has to do with that. In real estate, you see what the rising cost of living, even just the housing market, how a lot of people, it's becoming more and more difficult for island residents to keep up with these rising costs. Now, what can be done by our government to address the rising cost of living on Guam?
Oh, geez, that is a good question, because I know the problem too with this COVID is that it's affecting. Well, I heard this morning that there's going to be a shortage of spam, because there's also going to be a shortage of of pork that's being distributed, so we can't even make the spam. So of course, when we have the shortage of spam, the price of spam is going to go up. And then we have, it's a whole shipment. We have shipments coming in, but then we have the whole Jones Act that, adds all these taxes on top of everything. And it's really just, it's turning into one big mess. It's like that domino effect. One bad thing happens, and then the rest of it continues to happen. And then now we have, because of the shortage of houses being built, now we also have the prices of the houses are being maintained at a fairly high price. So because it was really difficult when a lot of people qualify for about $250,000, and most of the houses, if a house is selling at $250,000, next thing you know, there is a bidding war, and you're looking at more like $300,000. So that's basically, if you want to buy a house, you want to look around the $300,000 to $400,000 range, and not everybody can afford that, and that doesn't even match up with what the average income is here on the island. So we need to build our own homes. We need to have workers here on the island. Guam needs to be more self-sufficient. is one thing. The Jones Act is a separate situation because that is a big effect on our prices. On top of the the tax rate, but that I know that people have visited the Jones Act before. And they all keep focusing not just on Guam and Hawaii, but also Alaska, also on Puerto Rico. And we need to focus on what affects Guam. And we need to forget about those other places. The only places that really affect us is Hawaii. So we need to focus on that. And we need to, it needs to be revisited again, because without that, it's going to, the cost is going to continue going up. It's not going to come back down. And it's a bad trade deal, and that's where you have to put Guam first.
All right. All right. So moving on to our final question. What will be your first legislative initiative if you are elected to the 36th legislature?
Okay. There has to be a lot of things that are done at the same time, because there is no one thing that will really change anything. So obviously we have to bring the business tax down. Everybody's been talking about it. It hasn't been getting done. That has to be done. Let me see. We have to also, one of the things too, a lot of people may know about the heartbeat bill. I'm very pro-life. I'm also a part of the Catholic Pro-Life Committee. That has to be put on there. I do want to put a part-time legislation that I refer to as citizens legislation. So the price would come down on that. I think that we would also get better candidates that are definitely more qualified to take care of things that they are experts on. We also, let me see, we also need to, what I'd like to also look into are school vouchers, especially everything that's going on in our education with our kids being at home. So that's a whole other situation right there.
All right. Now, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we do have to wrap up. I appreciate the time that you've taken to sit down with us here today on Coffee with the Candidates. For everyone else, don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Coffee with the Candidates.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Hold on, let me
Hey.
Oh my God, I'm so happy that worked out. Oh my goodness. Awesome. So Joe, thank you so much. I'll see you.
Yay.
Now we're breaking up a little bit, so I guess that's good timing.
Michelle,
Right? Yeah.
really awesome. Sorry, I know my connection's unstable, but Michelle, if you can hear me, you did great. I thought you answered all the questions good. I just have two more questions for you. My first one is what village you're from.
Oh, see, that's a little tricky. I always say that I'm from Tortu, but I'm right on the border, so technically I'm from Barragata. But if you ask me like face to face, I'm from Tortu.
No problem. So I'll put
because I only found out that I live in Barragata a few years ago when I had to get a mayor's verification.
So I stay in Ta'i, Manila, right? But people always tell me Chalampago, but other people go, no, it's on the Manila side, so it's Manila. And then FD's on the Chalampago side, so it's Chalampago. I'm like, I don't know. I just say Manila because I've known it my whole life. But okay, so I'll put Tortu, and then also just one.
That's why I just say Tortu, but if you want to get technical and legal, then it's Barragata.